Okay, well, we're going to go over some of the, well, first we're going to go over what you sort of found in your readings yesterday. And then I've created some of the TEKS for us to go through and just to see what the differences are at the different levels, and then seeing some of the examples of things maybe you might have forgotten what they are. Like, I know most people don't remember what prosody is, or diphthongs or digraphs or stuff like that. So just to sort of like remind you of those things that we're supposed to teach, but they're sort of like obscure and we forget the labels that they're given. Let me turn on the light in the back again.
Okay. Leave her alone.
There we go. Let me close the window because my husband is doing the grass and it's like bright outside and I can hear everything. Okay. So for your critical reading yesterday of the standards, what did you see in the oral and the reading standards that maybe jumped out at you, or that you were like, I don't know, this seems confusing?
I just know that, I mean, well, first I want to tell you, I've only been teaching 4 years, okay? I've only been teaching 4 years. I didn't teach, I went from 2nd, 3rd to 4th. And then, but I know that the foundation, I've always, even when I was taking the EC through 6 certification test, it was hard. It was all, that was a big thing for me, not knowing. And when I looked at the standards, foundation pops out at you, knowledge and how to implement that, all those pop out at you as a teacher, like, okay, you're responsible.
Absolutely.
To teach them, and where they're at, especially where they're at, it depends.
Exactly.
Different levels.
Test them in the beginning because you have them all, like, they're not all exactly ready to start 5th grade all at the same thing. They're varied, and then you have your special pops that vary even more.
And so they want you to identify those, and that's where I know that's where it's going to get me. Okay, they're going to give you an example. Okay, is this at the emergent stage? Is this at the, see, I don't even know the stages. I can read it over and over and over. It won't stay. It just won't stay. But at those levels, so you have to know that too, and that's hard.
It is. It's a lot. It is a lot of information. So, and the English language isn't super easy to learn, and it's not super easy also to teach. It's a challenging thing. And I too, like you, have never, with the exception of my children, taught students to read. They came to me and I taught them how to think about what we've read, and that's very different. I always give my hats off to the people and those foundational grades, because that is tough. Plus at that age level, their attention spans are not what they are when they get to me. So that just seems like an even more daunting task. But I think the new way that they're implementing it, chunking it down and breaking it, it's going to be a lot easier for us to get into the flow systematically through each grade level, and there won't be so much confusion, but once the standards are set. Okay, so let me share my screen so I can show you what I have. So I'm gonna do this one. Okay, so what I have here are concepts that were in the no column, in the K column of your standards. They're also what the students should know when they leave your classroom, right? And so those things correlate. And I wanted to show you the support for ELL students stays the same pretty thoroughly all the way through. It's the same thing that you have to do. Requires scaffolding and possibly adapted text, translations, native language support, cognates, summaries, myriad pictures and images. That is like the best way to get them to understand, ideas to text is via images. Glossaries, bilingual dictionaries, all of these are ways in which you can support your ELL learners in the classroom. And I'll send you this when we're done.
Okay, great.
And then vocabulary needs to be in context of connected discourse so that it's meaningful. So the vocabulary that you teach can't just be, okay, we're going to learn the word oxymoron and metaphor, but then not have an example of oxymoron in your reading or something like that. So it has to be connected to the learning, to the conversation that you're having at the moment, so that it's meaningful for them and they can tie it to other pieces of the lesson. And for a long time, teachers did not want to use the students' first language at all in the classroom, but it is their language from which we are using to sort of like scaffold to the English language. So strategic use of the student's first language is important because they need to be able to make those links, those linguistic, cognitive, and academic links between English words and their native language. So although we don't want to speak to them only in Spanish, obviously that would be counterproductive and against what we're supposed to do as teachers, you know, engage them in those speaking opportunities that are organic and many, you know, multiple, but you don't want to leave out their language. You're going to strategically use their language to, sort of like a springboard for their learning. Okay, so this is a look at 4th grade ELR oral language proficiency. And then once I get down, we're only going to look at 4th grade in depth, and then not super in depth, and then just take a look at how it changes from 4th to 5th, just with the oral, like what they add and how it just tweaks it a little bit and it gets a little bit more nuanced. So the importance of oral language proficiency cannot be understated anywhere. I cannot express how important that is. Oral language proficiency is our ability to speak to people, right? And so as children, when you're 2 years old, you can probably string together 2-word sentences. It typically goes that way. 2 years old, at 3 years old, they're like 3 to 4 words per sentence. And then 4 years old, they should be able to. My children, since they were 1, have been like stringing along all these, but because they had older siblings, there's 5 of them. So, and now there's 11 of them with my husband. So there's so many examples and conversations that happened that when they were little, they had such a crazy oral language proficiency. And if every student started from that vantage point, it would be, yes. Okay, I will handle it later. Okay, thank you, my love. So it can't be understated. It holds a pivotal role in school success, whether or not they have good oral language proficiency early on. And then obviously we can build it if they don't have it early on. But if they come to us with oral language proficiency, those are the ones of the kids that were like, oh my God, they never shut up. I was one of those, you know. If my parents ever went to an open house, there was never anything academic to say about me, but they're like, she does talk a lot. So I want to ask questions. I want to, you know, answer things, but that's a good thing. And we want students to engage in that. What? Do we have glue for what? We'll fix it later, girls. Go away and we'll fix it later. Love you. I'll fix it later. Leave it here and we'll fix it later. Okay. Super glue and I'll find it later. Thank you, my loves. So in order for them to be able to talk about all of the different academic content areas, we need to get them proficient in language as a whole, not just language in our classroom, like that is specific to our specific content area. And typically everybody should be doing this. So once they get to 6th grade, which is middle school, then the math teacher should be engaging them in every sort of opportunity to have them use the language in that content area and other content areas within there so that everybody is engaging them and increasing their oral language proficiency. So here, oh, sorry. What's important is listening, speaking, discussion, and thinking. So those are the skills that we try to get them to increase. So we need to test whether or not they're listening. That's the comprehension. Do they understand? I just asked a question, repeat it back to me. but the thinking is the end goal. We want for them to be able to use their ideas and their listening and speaking skills and the discussion as a whole to come to new ideas during their oral language expression. And these are things they have to be able to do. They have to be able to listen actively, ask relevant questions to clarify information, and make pertinent comments. We have to force them to do these things. So we say, okay, everybody, I'm going to read this little poem, and I want for you to, while I'm reading, think of something, a question about, and then give them a question, like a topic, so that they can practice making pertinent comments. They can do that by hand, metacognitively on the paper that itself, following, restating, especially in a sequence, employing eye contact when they're talking. And like I said, with some students, the whole eye contact thing is like a shyness thing, but it also is a cultural thing. So working with students in that way. Enunciation is very important because it correlates to phonics, to phonemes and phonology. And we need for them to be able to, when they say the words, pronounce the individual sounds like they should be pronounced. That way later on they can use that to decode other words. And work collaboratively. So we always want them to work collaboratively. Here is, they actually say phonological awareness, phonics, word structure, which is also word structure is morphology, in order to communicate, decode, and spell. And what's important about spelling and decoding is kind of like the other way. Like spelling is the reverse of decoding, I suppose. What I wanted to point out for you here is that, oh, it's on the next page. Here, you have to get them to be able to decode multi-syllabic words and get them to understand digraphs, diphthongs, and how those sounds are made and the rules with those specific types of words. And so we're going to take a look at it. Oh, here's one of them. Later, we'll take a look at it in 5th grade. Also, they need to be able to...
Are you coming back this way? Okay, yes. On the tire,
Okay.
when you put, I'm talking to my son real quick. On the tire, you can't overinflate the tire, okay? You can't overinflate it because you'll ruin it. So just put enough air just to, okay. All right. Fine. A teenager's.
I know. I have 2.5. So I have a 17, a 15, a 12-year-old, a 5-year-old, and a 4-year-old.
Oh my gosh.
Yes, but if I were to name all their ages, oh my God, it's like every age. I think we don't have a 9-year-old right now because Sebi just turned 10, so we don't have a 9. We have like ages 4 through 17, and some of them are doubled, and there's 11 of them, so it's pretty crazy. We don't have them all at the same time because my ex-husbands, they go. My husbands, they go with their moms. So, but still.
Yeah. Well, his car's in the shop, and he's like, "Can I borrow your car?" We want to go to the outlet. It's him and his girlfriend. I'm like, my tire's kind of low, so I was like,
okay,
but it's okay. He'll be all right.
Yeah. So getting them to understand the difference between closed and open syllables, and spelling homophones, which is a huge problem for students forever. Still to this day, I see adults on Facebook who don't understand homophones. I don't understand it. It is mind-boggling. So I'm just going to use a strategy that I was used with my students. So here we have homophones. That's what I've given you here. So define what a homophone is using the image that I've just showed you. So I have I, flower, flower, CC, 8. So what would you say that the definition of a homophone is?
I mean, it's a word that sounds the same that means different.
Exactly. So it sounds the same, it's spelled different, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it has a different meaning.
Yeah.
So if you were to segment the word homophone to homophone, what information would that give us? The homo means what? They wouldn't know this at 4th grade, but like in the 8th grade, you could do this with them.
What does homo?
What is a homo sapien or a homosexual? What does that mean?
It's
We're all homo sapiens. All humans are homo sapiens, and homosexuals like their same sex. So homo means same.
same. Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
homo means same. And phone, we know, like what, and you could ask them, so what does it remind you of, that word phone? They're like, oh, well, talking.
Yeah.
Close, that segment, phone, phoneme means sound. So homophone means same sound. Same sound, different meaning, different spelling. And so practicing with words like that and letting the students sort of like go backwards and investigate it that way is a worthwhile activity for them. And for some reason, it just makes them remember it a lot better. Okay, so this one is for vocabulary. And here it talks about syllabication. Again, pronunciation is very important, getting the students to say the sounds. And this is where the strategies during vocabulary and spelling include choral, right? So I say it and you say it too. You say it with me, the same word, say it at the same time. Or I say it and then you guys echo it back to me. So echo sort of strategy. And if I don't hear everyone say it the same, then I'm gonna say, okay, what's that word again? Prosody. Because some people say prosody. It's prosody. Say it again, prosody. So let's take a look. Context. So for vocabulary, context means within the paragraph or the sentence or the story, looking about the word being used for clues as to what the definition is. And that's something that you just have to practice. And so what I do for this is whenever I give them a vocabulary word that's especially challenging, I'll look for a text that has a paragraph that does that. And there's so many, and it's you know, with the internet, it's so easy for us to find example text. And so just like a text using the word prosody in whatever. And so that you can have them work backwards, sort of using context clues. And prosody is the reading aloud with pitch, stress, and timing to convey meaning. So prosody adds to fluency. If I read fluency instruction must include all 4 elements: accuracy, rate, prosody, and comprehension. That's totally without prosody, because I'm not doing any sort of inflection. There's no pausing. I'm not stressing anything. And so prosody for reading is a lot of the way that we understand is another way to convey text. And we want the students to practice prosody, and we model it for them every time we read them a book. I can't imagine what it would be like to be in a classroom where your teacher read in that way, but there are teachers that do that, that have that monotone, and they don't themselves engage in prosody. And it's so difficult for students to learn if they're it doesn't work. So here we have their comprehension skills, and this is where metacognition comes in, because comprehension is what you understood, and metacognition is thinking about your thinking. So you need to use metacognitive skills in order to comprehend things. We ask ourselves questions, we make connections to other things, we deepen our comprehension through the questions and the comments and the connections to prior knowledge and the real world. So these are the sort of things that we should be doing in the classroom, teaching them that there's a purpose, right? Generating questions before the text, during and after reading to deepen the understanding. This is a strategy that you would have them do. Having them do this would increase their metacognitive skills. So having them generate questions about a text after we've discussed predictions is in itself metacognitive practice. You don't want to inundate them with too much metacognitive practice, like the entire day, you know, or do a whole bunch of different exercises that do that, but you definitely want to do it every single day in a meaningful way. Again, make connections to personal experiences. That helps them make the connection so that they'll be able to engage in metacognition. monitoring comprehension is in itself metacognition. Monitoring means we're gauging our thinking, right? We're monitoring our comprehension, we're gauging our understanding, we're monitoring our metacognition. So rereading is an act of metacognition, going back to read because I didn't understand this. I'm using background knowledge, asking questions, annotating when your understanding breaks down. When I'm unclear about this, say, okay, circle this. I don't know what that word means. Gonna look it up later. And this over here reminds me of this. Need to look it up as well. That is an activity that engages metacognition. Response skills. So we want for them to be able to respond to what they read, what they heard, or what they viewed. So we want for them to be able to discuss specific ideas, interact with different sources, especially in these ways. Note-taking, annotating, and illustrating helps them respond to what they just read. And at the 4th grade level, we want for them already to use textual evidence and support. So we want to say, and you can practice this even before you start writing. If they say, well, just with pictures, you know, in this picture, what does he look like? Oh, well, he looks sad. How do you know? Well, his face is like that. And I think I see a tear. Okay, you saw a tear and his face looks sad. So that's how we know. To understand that there's evidence to back up their assertion or their ideas there in the text, whether it be in the visual or the meaning. Being able to retell, paraphrase text in a meaningful way. And so I have for you here the multiple genres, and of course the what is it, the pyramid: exposition, conflict, rising action, climax, falling action, and resolution, or denouement, I think that's what it's called, and it's French for when things don't get resolved, like the conflict doesn't itself get, it's not a true resolution. It's like, but nonetheless, the loose ends were tied up. So, but this is for literary text, so not expository. And getting them to understand historical and cultural settings is very important so that they can understand a different type of context. The context that comes from understanding or being competent in pragmatics, right? So being able to read something and then think about its historical and cultural setting and how that kind of changes or influences the characters, the conflict, the you know, rising action, the climax, all of those things, and how they act on each other. Multiple genres across, you know, each genre has specific characteristics and structures. So for your expository text, you have how-tos, you might have a newspaper article, an obituary, something from a magazine, a technical writing piece that came, like instructions to set up your Apple TV, all of the different types, and they have formats and characteristics or signifiers that we can teach the students when they're reading to identify, okay, this is this type of writing that I'm reading, which means I should be prepared to learn this type of thing or to sort of ingest this information. And then on the flip side, they get good enough at it, they can create those pieces of writing, persuasion, how-tos, and know that their own writing has to have those same characteristics and markers in order to be part of that genre. Recognize the characteristics of informational text. Okay, identifying the author and the reader. Okay, different types of, I'm sure you know these, but they will include these in some way. I know that you're a teacher, so you know them, but so there's some that aren't, and I have so many that get fables wrong, and I always tell them, remember, fable, stable. Fable has to have the animals, and they talk, and they teach you a lesson, so fable, stable. And this is just a review of the different genres of storytelling that we go over at the 4th grade. Author's purpose, we go over. Then we get to composition, and it's pretty straightforward. I'm not going to go through all of it because I don't want to use up the time, but you can look over those. What I wanted to say that is especially important from these TEKS, from these TEKS is the coordinating conjunctions and the types of sentences. So we always want to be able to take them from those simple sentences that they use, which makes their compositions short and choppy. And a way to rectify short and choppy sentences is to get them to engage in sentence combining. And so you don't want to start them off with their whole essay and say, okay, combine your sentences in this. I would give them sentence stems, you know, short and choppy ones that go together, and tell them to combine them as a group and use fanboys, the coordinating conjunctions, to come up with better sentences. Get rid of the ones that are there. They can, you know, they has to make sense, right? And they have to use their syntactical knowledge and their semantic knowledge in order to make the paragraph make sense. And this is something that I would do from elementary all the way up to when they're seniors, because you'd be surprised, seniors write short and choppy sentences. So this is an extremely good activity to get them to increase the use of complex sentences within their writing, which is something that is very important and the state wants for you to do from that last one. So this is composition again, multiple genres, but using poetry as one of them, which is difficult. And I just wanted to show you this example, which I love, and gets them to read a text very thoroughly and then reread it so many times to create something new. And it's one of the higher, the critical thinking, higher level activities that you could do with your students in the classroom. And it also gets them to use better word choice. So I use this activity in two ways. One is that I could give them a piece of text, right? Maybe everybody the same, maybe they choose their page from their favorite book, they reread it, and then they create a poem, it's called a found poem, from only the words there in their story. So they love doing found poems because great writers use great words, right? And so they have a lot of stuff, and they'll even look up words. They'll take that one page and they will dig in and say, this is a big long word, I want to know what this means. Look it up, ask someone around them, kind of, you know, it's a great activity for vocabulary, for diction, again, word choice. And I use this exact, after I introduce this with somebody else's text, after they've written their first essay in the class, I tell them to do a found poem with their essay. That's the first sort of revision that we do. We create a found poem. And undoubtedly, the students will say, can I add words to my essay? Change words, you know, so I can have better words. So I could use for my, I don't have enough good words for my poem. Well, why don't you have enough good words in your essay? Well, I just didn't use them. Well, you need to pick good words. And so showing them that word choice matters, and that they can say things in a different way, and that by saying things the way that they said it before is kind of boring, and they said it themselves, not me, you said it because you didn't want to use your words. And undoubtedly that's always the case. I mean, unless you have a really, really great writer who's just like amazing with vocabulary. So this is a really great activity, and it helps them understand word choice, and especially poetry, and it gets them to loosen up, because if you start off with found poetry, it's not structured, it's not relegated by rhyme scheme, and all of that is scary for the kids. It's even scary for some teachers. I've worked with teachers that say, I need help with the poetry unit. I hate poetry. And I'm like, well, how can you hate poetry? but it's like a fear thing, you know, because it's so rule guided, and because the different subgenres within poetry are difficult to achieve. If you don't know what a closed syllable is, or rhyme scheme, or what even rhyming is, those things are going to be more difficult. But if we do things right with the science of teaching reading, our kids should be amazing at poetry when they get to us at that older level. And this is the last leg of the TEKS for fourth grade, and it's inquiry and research. So we have to get them to ask questions, to engage in asking questions. And inquiry is one of the best alternative curriculum models. We don't use it very much here. Sometimes science teachers will use it for a lesson, but I have yet to see like an entire school whose like curriculum model is based on inquiry. But there are schools that do that. They're very like, you know, they're for rich people, and it's about asking questions, you think, and there's even this one school that I visited in Virginia. I mean, it's extremely posh. It's a private school, but still, K through 12 nonetheless, but it's where the diplomats in Washington, D.C. send their kids, right? All the congressmen send, it's like, there they do a lot of inquiry instruction, very, very little direct instruction. And in fact, every week, the teachers, they come for, I think it's called like I forget what it's called, but they have a meeting with all the students and the teachers, and so the older kids, they lead the discussion and they talk about issues they've seen in the classroom. So they make changes. They're like, okay, Miss Durham was in front of the class for 30 minutes, and 20 of those minutes she told us about her daughter. And I felt like it was an extreme waste of time. But these kids are on such another level. Their metacognition is already somewhere else, that they will bring up those things, and then the teachers, the principal's there, and they must make those changes. It's insane, but we don't have that here. In Texas, we want to encourage the students to practice their inquiry skills and their research skills so that they can be lifelong learners, so that they can find answers when we're not there. And that's very important. So 5th grade TEKS. The text complexity obviously increases. You get more challenging vocabulary, more sophisticated sentence structures. The nuanced text feature, that's pragmatics, right? So we would introduce possibly maybe a snippet of, instead of Diary of the Wimpy Kid, I would suggest that it'd be much more meaningful to take an excerpt from the Diary of an American Slave, Frederick Douglass, and his narrative, right? For me, culturally, that would be more beneficial for our students to learn that, his rich and meaningful lessons. But then also there's nuanced features to that text because of the time period, who he was, what he went through, and that is more cognitively demanding. And we would have to bring those things to our classroom. And the goal is for them to be, again, self-directed, using metacognitive skills. We have to practice those in every way. Okay, and these are just ways we can use metacognition and do metacognition in our classroom. We have to practice it. So I always practice my metacognition for my students. Anytime we had to write an essay, I wrote one of my own before. I did the pre-writing, I wrote my different ideas, and I let them choose, okay, what, I just gave them a little piece, like the time I rollerbladed down a mountain, the time I delivered a shark, you know, just little snippets. Let's say we're working on narrative. And they would choose one, and then I would go through the process aloud on my overhead, and they would watch me thinking about the different things, okay, what I wanted to say, you know. When we got to the very top, like, I was scared, but I didn't want anyone to know. And so how do I show that in my writing without saying I was scared and I didn't want anyone to know, you know? And so we would talk about how I could best show that visually in the reader's mind rather than saying it. And that was an activity modeling my metacognition. Goal setting is metacognition. So if you ask them to say, what is your goal for this assignment or for this essay or for whatever it is, and then go back and reflect on whether or not they achieved it. And then even further, if you didn't, if you did, how, what steps did you take? And if you didn't, what changes are you going to make to do it next time? Or what could you do so that you could achieve that goal? And that helps them think about, where am I at? Where did my thinking go wrong? What can I do to fix it? And it just takes practice. The more that they practice in it, the better they'll do it automatically. I do it all the time. I hate it. Everything I do, I'm like, metacognition, is this better? Can I make this better? You could take it too far. Build in ways for student to stop and take stock. So just check where I am in understanding. And you can pause, and this can even you can even have them do that while you do an informal assessment, right? Raising the cards, like the green card or the red card, to see where it's, and if they raise the red card, then they need to be able to, you know, say, where is it that I'm confused in it? You know, getting them to say the sentence, not just, I don't understand, but I don't understand, something, I don't know, I couldn't think of an example right now. And then be explicit. Again, using metacognitives when you're using your skills, telling them, I'm thinking about my thinking, and even tell them what metacognition is. Guys, did you know that learners think about their thinking? Good learners? There's no reason why they can't learn that word when they're in the 4th or 5th grade and know what it is, and know that super genius people do it all the time with everything that they do, so that they always learn. Anything they come into contact that's new, they'll say, okay, did I get it? Do I need more? I'm good.
I mean, I taught 4th grade. That was the first time this year. But I mean, now that you're talking about it, I was doing a lot of that metacognitive, not even knowing that I was doing it.
See, and
you don't even know you're doing it, but
you just didn't know the word for that.
I just didn't know the word, but I mean, I knew that the state test was coming. We had to write, and I did that. I chose the topic, and then I said, nobody's doing anything. You're gonna watch me. You're
Right.
just gonna watch me. So I started thinking, and they saw me.
Yeah.
And then they were giving me ideas. I go, oh, I like that idea. Oh, I like that idea. Okay, wait. Okay, how can we put this in a sentence? And they were helping me, and then I wrote it in the overhead. So they watch me. Just everybody put your pencils down. You're just gonna watch me today. I go,
absolutely.
But it takes time. It takes time to write. We have to think about it. We can't just.
Absolutely. And it's such important. I cannot tell you how many English teachers do not write for their students, model for their students writing. Mm-hmm. You cannot teach it without it. You cannot teach it without modeling, without first showing them, this is how it's done. This is what it takes to do it. Mm-hmm. So it's extremely important for us to model, and I'm so glad that you did that. In the 5th grade, I have them side by side. This is the 5th grade, and it's still the 4, right? The A, B, C, D. But just to see that it changes a little bit to, do you see the difference between 5th and 4th grade?
Listening, actually, that's relevant. Clarify. Follow. They have to give back. They have to restate a lot.
They do. They have to restate it. Mm-hmm. And they also get a little more nuance, right? So look at A. Listen actively for 4th grade. Ask relevant questions to clarify, make pertinent comments. Here, listen actively to interpret verbal and nonverbal messages. So that's the addition that's nuanced. So you're teaching them some messages. If I'm like this, what message am I sending? You're angry.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm angry. So the way we say things carries, like the way that we say things, the way that our faces, the way that we stand can add to or take away, if you will, from the message. And that's we make that distinction in the 5th grade so that they understand there's a little bit more nuance to oral language. Everything else pretty much stays the same, except for that you want for them to restate it for you, let you know that they can articulate back. Okay, and I don't know if I went through the whole thing. Let me just see really quick. Oh, it's a mosquito. I knew it. Knew something was biting me. Okay, so here we have decoding words with consonant changes, like the TH to the sh sound, such as in selection. Here is this is a T. Why does it sound like sh? So getting them to understand that, and you know, so on and so forth, like the K and the sh music. Decoding multisyllabic, vowel consonant syllables, vowel teams is important, that EA, IE, EI, and when it comes, the rules that go with that. Just, you know, getting them to practice those high frequency words again. And I didn't realize we still did cursive. I thought they had taken that out, but it's on every single one. It's still there. Nobody does it. Literally no one. Why? There's not time?
Well, like this year, I was responsible for the writing star and the reading star. I didn't have time for cursive.
Yeah, no, I get it. I get it.
You
But
know,
there's adults that don't know how to write cursive. There's a
I know.
lot of adults that can't write cursive.
No, they can't. But I did I had some that kids that wanted to. I said, okay, we'll do it. I promise. So I would do it like maybe closer to Christmas, closer to spring
Yeah,
break.
when
You know,
you
when
have
we're like,
the
yeah.
time. Exactly. No, I totally understand.
Or after star, okay, let's practice some cursive.
Oh, it's so sad. Oh, here's where the last one. Oh, wait. So it included, again, the digraphs, the diphthongs, homophones, advanced knowledge of syllable division patterns. So that's like that segmenting. Every year you have to practice segmenting. Every vocabulary word that you give, you should segment with your students. Every vocabulary word.
Yes.
Show them how it's broken up, the different syllables, and the correct pronunciation of each. And so here we have your diphthongs, the aw, the AW, then straw, claw, aw, saw, aw, and the digraphs, the ch, sh, and then you also, those are consonant digraphs. You also have vowel digraphs as well, and the rules that go with them. So, and teaching the kids what a diphthong and a digraph is important. And I think a lot of teachers think like, no, that's too, you know, they don't need to know. But there is no harm in, for instance, saying, okay, guys, we're going to learn about diphthongs today. First of all, how can we break this apart, diphthongs? Like, that's a crazy word. Do you see any words in there? And then sort of play around with that in that way and then introduce it. So I say every new word that you have, especially ones that are weird like this, to really try to segment them so the kids get myriad practice opportunities to segment with you. And then I moved it to the 6th grade, to the oral language. Sustaining, oh, I left it out, oral language. Just to see how it develops. Listen active to interpret a message, ask clarifying questions, not just questions, but like, I need to clarify what you said, and then to respond appropriately. Follow and give oral instructions that include multiple action steps. Give an organized presentation with a specific stance and a position, employing eye contact, speaking rate, prosody, enunciation, gestures. So natural gestures, the nonverbal language, they should be employing that too. And let's see, I think that was it for this one, for this slide. I think it is. And that's it. So I just wanted to review those really quickly because those are some of the main ideas, and then it just gets a little bit more complex with the readings. But it is more challenging in those earlier year questions. So the lower grade questions are more complex than the ones that they ask you about 8th grade or 7th grade writing. Let's take a look at some questions and practice. And so here are all our, here's the oral language. The first standard, which is oral language, correlates to this. So it's all there, and literally every answer would be one. This is the S side of it. They didn't include the K side. So it's the standard and then the S side, or actually it's the K side. The knowledge that you should be able to do.
Mm-hmm. No.
Okay, here we are. How do I make this be different? Like, I don't want it like this. Single page, thank you very much. Okay. Totally going the wrong way. Have you seen these before? This one is the one that the state used to use. They are crazy pants about not letting us have questions. And I'm actually going to create some more thoughtful questions this afternoon, based on those more challenging ideas that we went over, because I have someone else that's doing ELAR 4 through 8 as well. So, hmm? and
that's a great.
yes. So this actually came when, I don't know if you remember, before Pearson gave the exam, ETS used to give it. And this was their study guide, which had questions and like a whole bunch of stuff. Well, TA took that off. None of the manuals are available. They have like a shortened version. They're posted on the website, but they essentially took away the manual. Luckily, I have them all downloaded, so it's fine. I'm not sure if you've seen these before, but this is actually a really great, they have really great practice questions in this one, and they keep them under lock and key like they do the STAR test questions. You know, the way that they say, don't talk about it, you don't know, don't look at the paper for too long. They do that as well for these Texas exams.
You know that when I first took it, be careful, son. When I first took it, I took it through ETS. And this time when I registered for 4 through 8, it's through Pearson, but they do provide some questions there.
Yes.
I haven't looked at them yet, but Pearson does. There's some, and they're free. They're free to look at, but I haven't looked at them yet, but that's one of my things I need to do too, so.
Yeah, maybe on the last day we'll go through those and see what they say. I don't think they're very good. I want to say they're not good at all.
Oh my gosh, but I was hoping, well, it's from them, you know.
I think it's actually a link to study.com, which is in itself not very good as far as the questions are concerned, because the Pearson exam is a critical reading exam, and they do not take the time to craft the complexity of the question and the keywords and the pedagogy. They don't do that for like study.com. So I want to say that we might, last session with someone else, I might have gone to check to see what kind of questions they have, and I want to say they were bad, but I'm not sure.
I haven't looked at them yet.
Okay, well, let's try this one. We have Miss Lee, an English teacher, designs a discussion activity for students after they have read a chapter of a class novel. She provides students with a list of question starters that they can use to create questions for their peers. An excellent activity, by the way. Then Miss Lee has them ask and answer the questions in small group discussion. So the first one says to describe what must have happened when, and then to refer to a specific event from the chapter and the page number. For the second one, what do you think might happen next with, and then refer to the specific conflict or person and the page number. How was referring to a specific section in the chapter and page number similar to something you've read in the past. 4 is to describe what the author means when he or she says refer to a specific quote in the chapter and the page number. 5 is what changes to refer to a character or an event and the page number would you recommend for the author? And what are some of the problems of refer to a character in a chapter and the page number? So that's the scenario. Let's take a look at the question and see if we can, identify keywords, the goal, and then go back and see what we can do with that. So the activity primarily encourages students to practice which of the following critical reading skills. So what keywords jump out at you, and how would you sort of re-say that in your own words?
Okay, primarily encourages, so the best, right? The best. To practice.
And what does primarily mean?
Your first. What would you do first, or better, or best?
This activity primarily encourages students to practice. It's like primarily like, yeah, it mostly makes them do this first.
Okay.
Yeah.
To practice which of the following so practice, and of course your critical reading skills.
Right. So, and critical reading skills is very important. What's important to note about that is that it doesn't say critical thinking. It says critical reading. This is a critical reading skill, and there are many skills that with critical reading, and this one is practice in one of them that will help them with critical reading skills. So what in the scenario also jumps out at you?
Okay, Miss Lee, an English teacher, designs a discussion activity for students after they have read a chapter. I mean, I like these question starters and to create questions from, you know, to the kids together collaboratively.
Yeah, it's a question starters or question stems are great for all students to as a
Yeah.
springboard for, but especially for our ELL students. It's incredibly important that we give them sentence stems to play with so they can use them as a springboard to continue
Yes.
language building. So what do you think primarily, mostly, what does this activity encourage? It helps them to practice what critical reading skill?
Okay.
Yeah, providing, synthesizing, determining, and comparing.
Providing, synthesizing, I would think. If you're going to go by the verbs, maybe.
Well, but don't just choose from the verbs.
Okay.
Remember,
Providing,
verbs are
okay.
last choice when you can't do it. Like you don't know, and you're like, that's it. I'm just gonna go off the verbs.
Okay. Providing evidence from text to support ideas. Yeah. Synthesizing information from multiple sources. Well, I like the word synthesizing, but I mean, multiple sources, they're just using the novel, right? They're only using one
That is
chapter.
exactly right. Everybody always gets that wrong, and they always choose it because synthesizing is better at the
I
height.
love that word.
Yeah, it's the most critical of all. So, in order to synthesize something, you had to have evaluated something for the good and bad parts, analyzed it, analyzed other things, take apart all of the parts, and then create something new, right? An idea, information together. You're right. Synthesizing is the height of critical thinking, and people, that is meant to trick them because people read this and they forget to see reading, and they'll automatically put thinking there and then think, oh, synthesizing, that's the most of all of them. But you're right. It is only one source. It's a chapter of a class novel. So no, there are not multiple sources for them to synthesize information. That we could bet ourselves $5 that that's absolutely incorrect. So
Okay.
be out.
C, determining the effectiveness of rhetorical devices. Rhetorical meaning what? Literature or what? I don't know.
Rhetorical devices is typically speaks about the efficacy in your writing. So your persuasive writing, so rhetorical devices.
No.
Are you asking a rhetorical question within? But there is no discussion of rhetorical devices
No.
there.
And D, comparing a variety of textual structures. Comparing, no, they're not comparing anything. It's A, they're strictly using the novel to answer the questions.
Exactly. And every question, and that's why this activity is primarily encouraging this, because every single question, they have to provide textual evidence to support their ideas. So this entire activity primarily engages them in that critical reading skill. So excellent. I don't think I've ever had anyone get this question right on their own.
Well, I mean, like I said, I mean, our school district, I work in Port Isabel.
Oh,
And
fantastic. I love the beach so much. My uncle is the new, he's the new athletic director. My mom's brother.
oh my God, Coach Tony.
Yeah,
Uncle
Tony. Yeah.
And my brother worked under him.
Oh, really? I went to all of the games when I was little. I was like this girl when they went to the state, and they, you know,
how excited. Well, my son just graduated, so he's not going to be able to play under him. Yes, so, but we love him, and I'm so happy.
I love him too, but for different reasons. But yes, I do.
We love him. Well, he had been here already, so.
Absolutely. I went to every game he was there.
Yeah, and then my brother worked under him. My brother learned a lot with him, and now my brother's a head coach in one of the Edinburgh schools. Gabe.
That's awesome. Which Edinburgh? Because I live in Edinburgh. I mean, I live in McKinley. Yeah, I taught in Edinburgh.
Yeah, he worked Jaguars, the Jaguars.
Oh, very cool. That's awesome.
He's one of the head coaches there at one of the high schools.
The ex-principal that was there was my principal, Anthony Garza, Dr. Anthony Garza, but he moved away. He's a really nice guy.
Well, the reason I bring this up about Port Isabel, we have a reading program. She just retired, or the assistant superintendent just retired, but she has a company with another lady from Los Fresnos. It's called DMR. I don't know if you heard of DMR. And so we use a lot of that here in Port Isabel, but there's something we can do in a station, and it's called Can It. So it's a can,
Yeah.
and it has all the question stems in there. So everybody picks a sentence,
Yeah.
right? And then they're already from me, right? And then it'll even give them the page number where to go because we only have so many minutes.
Right. Exactly.
They use those questions to just strictly go find the evidence in the
That's
book.
an excellent activity. I
But
love
they call it can it, and you can decorate your can any way you want, whatever whatever. You know how elementary teachers we are. We go all crazy with the decorations and stuff.
Absolutely.
But that's why I like this too. This is excellent because
Yeah.
the kids, and then while they can be, when someone's over here looking for me, they can be searching, and you don't do it the first day. You do it like maybe the third day after a story or something.
Yeah. No, that's an excellent activity. I love it. What was the lady's name?
Anna Holland. And then the lady from Los Fresnos, it's actually, I guess they did it together, or she went in with her. It's her cousin. Her name is Dr. Diana Ramirez from Los Fresnos.
Oh, I know Miss Ramirez. Yes, yes, yes. She always comes to our schools. Oh, we used to. She loves Polaco. She always gives the Patricia Polaco books. Diana Ramirez.
Oh yes, I think, yeah, but she's very, so I think the district, Miss Holland would just do the PDs for us for free, obviously, because she worked for the school.
Right, absolutely.
But they go out to different schools.
Oh, they do. Yeah, they come to Edinburgh. They come to Edinburgh a lot. I'm like missing the other pages. I don't understand what's happening and why it's going from 25 to 26. Like,
I have 5. Are you what I'm seeing? Oh, went from. Oh, you mean the page on the bottom?
25 to 26. Oh, Chihuahuas. Okay, wait a minute. Close this a little bit.
And you need to, so they're the ones who really, when I first met you yesterday and how you telling me to break down the question, well, hello, I teach the kids how to break down a question.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? So I teach them how, yes, I teach them how.
Yes.
But yeah, no, I learned a lot yesterday, really.
Oh, good. I'm so glad.
Yeah.
Let me bring this. I found the page. I don't know why it wasn't there before, but here it is. All right, fine. If you want to do it this way, it's fine. So let's look at number 2, which is still going to be over those group of questions. So which of the following skills are students primarily practicing when responding to questions 1 and 4? So what is the question asking us?
Which of the following skills are students primarily practicing when responding to questions 1 and 4? So which one of these is for 1 and 4? So 1 and 4, which skill is being really implemented more, I guess? Describe what must have happened when, or 4, describe what the author means when he says, okay, describe what must have happened and describe what the author means. Can you go back to the answer choices? Forget.
Go back. Come on. Oh, here it is.
Must have happened and what the author means. What must have happened with it? You're not visualizing. Okay, summarizing. It's not telling you as a whole, like what was it, Arthur? What? Well, okay. What must have? So you don't know what it is. So that's your inferencing. Mm-hmm. So the kids have to determine what happened.
Yes, what must have happened, not what will happen. What will happen is predicting. Inferencing is thinking back and like, how did this work and what do I think happened there to get to where we are? For instance, if I were like, okay, what am I? Well, you're mad. Okay, well, let's think about, what do you think could have made me mad? Did you forget your coffee, Miss Elzada? Did you? So they will like think of all the reasons, like, oh, your kids made you upset this morning, and they could guess reasons why I'm already mad. Yes. Which wouldn't be a prediction, which would be inferencing. So let's just look at the rationale really quickly. Yes, so it requires students to make inferences in order to interpret the text.
Yeah, okay. And that's very big on the STAR. So we hit inferencing hard.
Absolutely. So the next one is also with that same question stems scenario. Which of the following question starters will best facilitate students' ability to make text-to-text connections?
Okay.
So what is the question asking? What keywords? And then we'll go back to, we're looking for which question starters best facilitate. So which would best help students make connections among texts, right? That's what the question's asking us. So let's see, which of the questions would do that?
Okay. Not one. What do you think might happen next? No. How was refer similar? How was blank similar to? Oh, there you go.
There you go. There it is.
Yeah, for one thing.
The only one that asks you for a different text, and it isn't a different text like the multiple texts that we're synthesizing. It's just something that they read from the past, but they're making text-to-text connection, and that's the only one that makes them do that, that encourages them to do that. Oh, sorry. So we said question 3, right?
Yeah.
Yes. So B is correct. So I already said why this was beneficial. This activity is beneficial for our English language learners primarily because it does what?
Develops elements of phonemic awareness. No. Phonemic meaning sounds and
right.
Offers explicit language acquisition instruction. Well, they're discussing. Well, no, they're just writing. No, okay.
They do discuss. It does say they discuss.
It does discuss. Okay.
But explicit language instruction is I'm going to teach language acquisition. I'm going to teach how, like, am I doing that with this lesson?
No. Provides an authentic opportunity for speaking. Encourages the use of word analysis strategies.
So let me go back so we can take a look at the scenario and you can better see. She says, then Miss Lee has them ask and answer the questions in small group discussions.
Ask and answer. Okay. Can you go back to the, yeah. Ask and answer. Provide an authentic opportunity for speaking or encourages the use of word analysis. Well, they're getting a chance to speak, and that will help with, like you said, you told me about ELLs. The first thing you need to do is provide any chance for them to speak.
Right.
Yeah, so I would say C.
Yes, it is. This is beneficial because it primarily gets them authentic opportunities to speak. And the reason that it's authentic opportunities is I didn't create the questions and the kids did that, and they have different ideas. They're going to ask questions I didn't come up with. The kids are going to come up with their own responses, and that in itself is authentic and not contrived. Like it's not something that I'm having them practice saying. So let me just go to what the state says, and they say C is correct because structured small group conversations allow students to practice using new vocabulary through engaging in authentic interactions with other students who are, you know, some of them native English speakers. Oh wait, that was the wrong one. Oh man. Oh no, it was right.
Yeah, you had it right.
Okay, let's take a look at Miss Woods. Miss Woods teaches social studies to, I'm like, why is this here? But I drew on the other page and it just stayed on my screen.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
Okay.
Miss Woods teaches social studies to a diverse group of students, including English language learners. Wait, is this ELAR? Yeah, it is. She divides the class into groups of 4 to 5 students. Each student reads and presents the information in a different excerpt from the textbook to the other group members. Which of the following is a primary rationale for this activity? So we have Miss Woods, she's teaching social studies in this diverse group of students that has several ELL learners. She divides them into 4 to 5 groups. Each student reads and presents the information in a different excerpt from the textbook to the other group members. So the question is asking us, what is the primary rationale, or what is the reason, the main reason for using this activity?
A, discussing expository selections improves ELLs. I'm going to close these. Oh, do I have access to close? Yeah, I do. Okay, so I can read the question.
Okay.
Discussing expository selections improves ELL's navigation of the, what does it say?
Improves ELL's navigation of nonfiction text structures.
Okay, discussing expository selections improves ELLs. Using prior knowledge helps ELLs make connections to unfamiliar vocabulary words. They didn't talk about prior knowledge of what?
I didn't talk about it at all.
They didn't talk about it, prior knowledge.
It's not in there, so it can't be. It's not one of the main keywords.
And A, discussing expository selections. Yes, they're expository. I guess, did she provide that? It is social studies.
And it's information from a textbook, which would be expository. It's not going to be very, it's going to be.
Improves navigation of the, I don't think that has, okay. It's not like a, okay. Providing a meaningful context increases ELL's comprehension of academic language. Requiring the use of multiple registers develops ELL's application of the appropriate register choice.
I don't even know what that means. I don't even know what D means. I'm like, or what they're trying to mean there. Multiple registers. We're going to look in the answer choices in just a bit.
Okay, providing a meaningful context increases ELL's comprehension. I don't know. I'm thinking C, only if they consider meaningful because it's groups and everybody's providing something with it.
Mm-hmm. And so each student reads and presents their information in a different excerpt to the group member. So all they're doing is reading and presenting the information to their group members. And what would be her main reason for using this activity in her classroom?
Okay, so if that's all they're doing, reading and saying something.
The reads and presents.
I guess A.
Yes, that's what I would say if I had to choose, only because D is buggling me right now. Where are we? 6. A is the correct answer because the activity described helps students understand the verbal techniques that are necessary. Wait, what? When speaking publicly.
Yeah, so 6.
Was that number 6?
Yeah. Okay, go back. Let's see.
Yeah, it is. It's 6, right?
No, it's 5.
Oh, it was 5. Never mind. 5. Let's look at it. C is correct because, so A is not correct.
No.
Because structured small group conversations allow students to practice using new vocabulary through engaging in authentic interactions with other students. So they were, I guess, discussing because of the presentation part. So they read it and present. And I guess the presentation part would be a clarification of what they understood. Let's go back to it and see. D says because students use a formal register to both read and present the information. We said, oh, it wasn't discussing. What was it? C? Providing a meaningful context. Okay, you were right with C.
The first time, right? But only because if I had to narrow it down, but I wasn't really sure because I still don't think it's meaningful. But if they're going to break it down where it helps them.
Well, it's not going to be meaningful. No, you're right. It's not going to be meaningful to them, not in this particular way, especially if you haven't already instructed them.
But you know what? It's, I guess maybe, I mean, it says diverse group and it says several ELs, but you still have to provide that instruction anyway, even if you have several in there in the classroom.
Absolutely, absolutely.
So,
and
yeah.
plus, was it C? Let me go back. 5. Yeah, was C.
Yeah, it was C.
A well-structured group. And so that I guess maybe should have been, and the fact that they're practicing, since it's a textbook, that they would be practicing new vocabulary, but it didn't explicitly state that. So this is like kind of not a good question. But since it's a textbook and they are practicing talking about things that are academic in nature, C has to be the best answer.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see why the other ones are wrong. A is incorrect because all students study their own sections of the text, so they do not help with the text structures in their excerpts. So they don't tell or talk about the structures of the text.
No. Mm-mm.
And in addition, focusing on oral language does not develop knowledge of text structures, which is linked to reading skills. So we teach them about those when we're teaching reading skills. B is not correct because students are learning new content as they read their excerpts, so there is no connection to their prior knowledge yet, which is why it would also not be meaningful, just so everybody knows, including ETS. And D is not correct because students use a formal register to both read and present their information. Still not too sure what they mean by that. A teacher has students listen to an audio recording of a presidential speech twice. The first time, students listen and respond to the content. The second time, students evaluate the tone, inflection, and pacing of the recording. The primary purpose of this activity is to help students do what?
The teacher has students listen to an audio recording of a presidential speech twice. The first time, students listen and respond. The second time, students evaluate the tone, inflection, and pace. Your fluency. Let's see. A, understand the verbal skills necessary to speak publicly, prepare for informal speaking, collaborate on improving the message of speech. Oh, compare different presentation styles.
So how many speeches are they listening to?
Just one, but twice.
So D cannot be right because it's talking about speeches. And so we're not comparing different speeches. We only have one. So D cannot be the correct answer.
Well, I think it's A, understand the verbal skills necessary to speak. It is a presidential speech, that's public.
It's probably not informal. It's probably not an example that would help you prepare for informal speaking opportunities, listening.
Oh.
I mean, maybe if you listen to Trump or something, like, no, that would even be worse. Terrible, terrible idea. Obama, he's so eloquent that, you know, they might not even understand everything that he says. So obviously that would not help them prepare for informal speaking opportunities.
I mean, but I can see, well, you know, I can see A or B, even though you say informal, but because it's still speaking opportunities.
Right.
So understand the verbal skills necessary. But it, I mean, the teacher probably just gave something to start to help them. And, you know, okay, let's listen to it. Let's talk about it. Let's listen to it again, you know, and okay, you're gonna use this as like a staple to.
Right, springboard to jump off, yeah.
Yeah.
But you were very right in your tone, inflection, and pace, right? If I were reading his printed interview, I would have to do the tone, the inflection. I would have to use prosody, right? In order to have it, the meaning of it come out. And he too he used tone, inflection, and pace in order to get meaning or to whatever. So you're correct in identifying that those are skills, oral skills that we need to know, oral language skills, verbal skills that we would need in order to speak publicly. So you're correct first, with A being correct, because this activity, the activity described, helps students understand the verbal techniques that are necessary for speaking publicly. This is actually a really great activity to do with your students. Have them listen to speeches like that and see, you know, evaluate and then identify the different areas where there was change in annotation and what that might mean, you know, the pause leading up to the last statement.
Did you see the reasoning for B?
Oh no, I didn't. Let me go back.
No, I read it. It says formal. See, the presidential is formal.
It is a formal speech. So presidential speech. But let me tell you, this was created like in 2012 or something. This handbook, or maybe even before that. So I mean, I would venture to say I've heard some speeches from our current president, which I consider informal and awful, yes. Not an example of formal speech. So, but usually presidential speeches are very formal and not a very good example of informal speaking. So C, the students are not collaborating on how to improve the speech. They're not even talking about changing ideas in the speech, so that couldn't be right. And they're only listening to one speech, therefore, like we said, they're not comparing and contrasting speeches. So let me see where we are on time. We're at 11:17. So when would you like to have another session? And we'll continue with 7 and on. We'll do like maybe a little mini lesson of some of the other things again, maybe some of the older grades, and review 7th and 8th. And take a look at the nuances between those 2 grade levels, and then practice some more questions.
Yes. Is Monday okay, or?
Oh, that's perfect.
Monday at 10 again?
Yes, ma'am. Let me see. My handy dandy notebook.
I have my final interview with the superintendent Monday in the afternoon.
Excellent.
Yeah.
That's really great. What you want to tell him is that you're very excited about TEA shift with the science of teaching reading, and that you're so excited about spreading reading strategies to other content areas and giving them ideas of ways that they can incorporate that, and collaboratively coming together so that you can give your students prior knowledge without even trying. Let me give you an example. Hooking up with your history teacher and finding out what they're learning, and then choosing a piece of writing that goes with that will give them a way to say, I'm learning this in Mr. Muniz's class. I know about this. And then when they go back to him, they'll say, oh, I know this from this other one. And then it bolsters them. So gets everybody to do cross-curricular activities, and we want everybody to be doing those reading strategies in every single content area. Throw that out there. He'll be like, I want this lady because she's going to help us make us better.
It's a lady. She came from Brownsville.
Oh, lady. There you go. Which lady is it? My aunt is an assistant superintendent in Brownsville. Dr. Salceda?
Dr. Salceda. No, she came. I think she was probably an assistant. No, maybe. Is there several assistant superintendents?
Brownsville is the second largest school district.
I believe she was an assistant. She's
4 or 5 of them, to be honest with you.
She just got married, so she's Capistran now, but Alacon. Okay.
Yeah, no, that's not my aunt, because my aunt's married to my uncle, so that she's
yeah. So she came from there, and I mean, she's taught it all. I mean, you can't get away with anything, because she's gonna come to your room and she's gonna know.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I'm ready for you. I'm ready, and I'm taking it to another level. Like, you don't even know. On the last day, I'll show you an activity that you can do with your students, because you're going to be at the junior high, right?
Yes.
Okay. There's a great activity that my friend and I invented in 2007 that we did, and now people do it all over Texas, like just different people. And it's a really great activity that we do at the end of the year. It's called the 6-word memoir. And everybody, you can get everybody on board. They can do it in like history or whatever, and it's very, very cool. NPR did a workup on it, and the kids did visuals, like they painted something to go with their memoir, and we had like this big old thing. It's a very cool end of the year, not poetry, but just critical writing, and it started with Hemingway. There was a book, and a writer asked Hemingway, can you give me a memoir in 6 words? Like, tell me about your life in 6 words. And that became sort of a genre, a 6-word memoir. So there's a book, and we have our students practice doing 6-word memoirs, because you only have 6 words. You have to be so judicious with what words you choose. So picking the words, using diction to choose the best words to give the best meaning, and then getting them to play around with their 6 words. And if you change or add punctuation, you can change the meaning of that 6-word sentence. So it's a great activity to get them to play with the words, and they love it. What was I going to say? I was going to say something else. Oh, what date was it? Monday the 15th?
Yeah, is it the 15th?
Was it the 15th?
Yeah, it'll be the 15th, 10 a.m.
Okay. All right, Ceci. I've always loved your name. I have a Tia Cecilia. I call her Tia Ceci.
Yes, my brothers and everybody did that too.
Well, it was a pleasure again. You have a better day than yesterday. You rest up. You, if you would like to look over 2 more of your standards, and then we'll start from there. We'll start from what you saw, what needs clarification, and then we'll go through 7 and 8 TEKS just to see what specifically the state wants for us to make sure they know. And then we'll practice again using the strategies with some of these questions. And by Monday, I'll already have those more challenging questions, but I think I'll save them for one of the other days.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Bye. Have a nice day. Bye-bye.
You too. We'll see you Monday.
See you on Monday.